Michelle Blanco and Melissa Sear, and this is our very first video in our new series of What the Frick? Because we don't want bad movies to happen to good people like you. So we're taking on that challenge for you. What are we watching today, Michelle?
So today we had the unfortunate event of watching Killer Klowns from Kansas on Krack. You heard that right. Killer Klowns from Kansas on Krack. Krack with a K.
That sounds complicated, but it also sounds like it has potential.
No, it didn't have any potential. We thought it might have potential, but no. There wasn't much redeeming about this movie, actually.
And we're going to show you an image of the movie poster. Not that there was a poster for this at all. This didn't go anywhere. This was done
with one camera.
With one camera.
And 6 people.
6 people, many puppets, on a very long one-day shoot, probably with a lot of drugs. So we're going to show you the summary and the image from that, because I don't want to call it a poster because that's glorifying it. But so we're going to do that here. Cut that out. And we just want to make one disclaimer. We only watched 30 minutes of this movie. It was a 90-minute movie. And it had kind of a racist puppet in it, which we weren't really crazy about. It's not that the puppet was saying racist things, but the concept of the puppet was very racist, and we weren't too happy about that. That wasn't the only offensive thing about this movie, though. So we did only watch 30 minutes of it. But Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit of your thoughts and feelings of the movie?
So the first very bad thing about the movie was that there was just one song that played throughout the 30 minutes that we watched. It wasn't a good song, and they kept cutting off the song as this person was singing, and I say singing, and they would just cut in the middle of a word and then go to something else. It also seemed like somebody got a video camera for their birthday or maybe for Christmas, and they were using the button that you have on your video camera that you can switch from black and white to sepia back to color, and they were doing that kind of as they felt like it. There was really no rhyme or reason to why they were doing it.
It felt very much like a community college photography major. I'm going to make a movie. And I don't put that down because I was kind of a community. I was a state university, not photography major. I wish I was, but, so that makes me even lamer than them.
We like bad movies. Let's just put that out there.
Yes.
We're big into B movies and horrible movies and Mystery Science 3000. And we've seen bad movies on purpose. We do that. We play movie roulette where we'll just, click real fast through bad movies, and then wherever it stops, we'll watch that movie.
Yes.
But this was, I just had my mouth open a lot.
Well, it was made in 2003, which I think showed in its summary. Mm-hmm. And usually when I go for my bad horror movies, I want them to be made in the 70s or 80s. I feel like that's prime time. Anything made after...
There's an excuse if it was made in the 70s and the 80s. It was kind of the way that the movies were made on purpose then. But this was in the 2000s. Yeah. So the puppet that was made that was racially incorrect and politically incorrect was kind of a shocker. When it came on, we were like, whoa, okay. And it made no sense to the story. I'm not sure the story made sense. We should say 3 cowboys or 2 cowboys, rodeo cowboys, a giant chicken. Yeah, I'm sorry, rodeo clowns, a giant chicken, and a clown puppet. That spoke on its own. Yeah. Spoke on its own. So, but there was no reasoning around why those were the characters, and there was a lot of staring. So somebody would ask a question, and then there's just a lot of blank stares back and forth for like a really long time.
Yeah,
like a minute. That they would just look at each other, and nobody would say anything, and that bad song would play in the background. And then it would just switch to like black and white, and then the song would play, and it would cut off, and then they would show some horses, and then they would show this ridiculous flyer that would say Wild West Rodeo, and then they would go back to the clowns, and then they would just be staring there, and then nothing would happen for a while.
I made some notes on the movie while I was watching because, you know, this was for academic reasons, not by choice. That's what I kept telling myself. It was for academic reasons, not by choice. Even though anybody who knows me, or you may not know this about me, but I like horrible stuff. I like clowns. I like horrible things. I mean, I'm talking movies, not like, you know, murder and drugs and stuff like that. I don't approve of that stuff. What?
I said, or Beyonce. You said you like horrible things.
And I felt like, you know, this movie challenged me to watch it. And I'm pretty much a trooper when it comes to that. You know, I feel like living in the first world, for the first time in my life watching this movie, I felt like I was up against something bigger than myself. Like I was up against an enemy that I wasn't going to be able to combat with, and that was this movie. And it won because we turned it off after 30 minutes.
Yeah, I couldn't. We tried. I couldn't. It was
bad.
The older puppet gentleman that was in a wheelchair, who was just a torso, yelling at the older lady puppet, telling her to shut up because he hadn't told her to talk yet.
But he asked her direct questions, so that was very confusing.
But the conversation and the argument was over that she wasn't selling enough crack.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting.
It was interesting because she was basically kind of like you would think she was a puppet imitating Julia Child.
Yeah,
in her accent and her accent, yeah.
And then, but it wasn't in context. And then we should add that there was a crazy cult guy named. What was his
Brother Kenny. There was a cult involved, and he was, you know,
he was sitting in a closet with 3 or 4 e-machines around him, several telephones, and a microphone that he was calling out to all truckers on the road with Breaker 19, which I thought was interesting. But then he just kept rolling his eyes and sweating a lot. He had a ponytail, bald on the top. Ponytail, and
we're not judging.
No, but he just kept, you know, going into this weird spazzy thing, and then he went out and like lit some candles and sang a little song about a girl in the river.
Yeah, you know, this movie should have been like tops. It had it all for me personally, and I'm sure you can, you know, it had puppets, it had cults, it had tall boys of bad beer. Because he had like 5 Budweiser.
Yeah, she likes to show up at a party with a 40 ounce.
I do like to show up at a party with that. And I mean, puppets and clowns really should just.
Well, you didn't say clowns, and clowns is your number.
Clowns is my number 1. This movie should have been at like the top of my list, but it was really horrible. It was, you know, like I said before, community college, like artsy, slow. You know.
I might say middle school.
Yeah.
I might say middle school.
I might be shooting too high.
Yeah. This might be like when, like I said, when video cameras first came out and kids went in the backyard and they just started shooting stuff like, you know, just one long shot, like you run in the woods and then I'll whatever. And then this kind of seemed more like that.
Yeah.
And then they just pressed all the buttons on the camera to see what happened. And then you just ended up with a bunch of shit that you couldn't use. And then they said, let's just make it a movie. And somebody bought it. Put it on this, and then we watched it.
Nobody probably bought this. We got tell everybody where we watched it.
So we watched it on a little app called Wicked Horror, which is an app on. I know you love how we say that. Probably my Boston accent.
Wicked Horror. No, I just smiled because I figured, you know, I should probably smile.
It's Wicked Horror. It's a free app on Amazon. And I was like, oh, free movies. Everybody needs more to watch right now.
It's not a big surprise. You know, there's tons of
pretty much every movie on there was. Because what was the first?
But I think we chose the worst out of all of them.
We read a bunch of things and we were like, oh, this one sounds ridiculous.
Killer Klowns, though.
Krack. It was like rodeo clowns and a giant chicken.
I had a hard
take some
time.
crack and go on a spree. We were like, we're in on that. Let's see what happens.
For it. So what did you take away what are your pros and cons of the movie? Give me your pros, and then I'll tell my pros.
I mean, we only saw the chicken for 2 seconds. We don't even know how he fits in. It was a giant chicken.
Well, that's probably a con then.
Well, I mean, just we saw a chicken.
Okay.
And goats in the snow, which I don't know how that fits in either, because it was just one of those weird shots with the song in the back.
Yeah, my pro would be that I realize that even though we're in quarantine, sort of, coronavirus, we forgot to mention this is April 15th, 2020.
Yep.
In case this goes into the archives of the penal system of Boston, Massachusetts.
We're in lockdown, Lawrence.
Yes. I feel like with a couple of puppets that I buy on Amazon, I probably could shoot a better movie.
We have Jebediah.
Well, she wouldn't let me buy a sumo suit either. Okay, respond to this. Tell her to let me buy a sumo suit. They're not that expensive. So my pro would be that, like, it kind of made me feel like with just a few puppets in quarantine, I could shoot a Killer Clown movie much better. Tell us your cons.
My cons are that you now want to buy puppets and shoot a movie. That's number one. Number two is that we won't get that time back. That's gone. Number three, that somehow that song's going to come back up again. I know that. Tomorrow, while you're at your desk working, I know I'm going to hear something about Pepsi and uppers. And what was the beginning of the song?
Corn dogs for breakfast.
For breakfast.
Tuna for supper.
There was something depressing about sundown
and uppers.
And Pepsi and uppers. I
Yeah.
mean,
which I've never done, which I'm not going to do, just as a disclaimer, but,
I've never done Pepsi and uppers. Well, congratulations.
I've never done corn dogs and uppers either. But my cons would be that the movie did beat me. I'm not afraid to accept defeat. It stings a bit, but the movie did beat me. And I don't like, especially when there's puppets and clowns and cults, I don't like to be beaten by movies like that. So we're going to
tell you, just don't watch it if you're easily offended by anything. Or even if you don't think you're easily offended.
Or you're offended by good taste.
If you have any taste. But if we're not really easily offended.
Well, let's face it, nobody's going to watch that movie because we're the only.
Please don't. Just don't. But if you think there's a movie that we would like, or even if you think we would hate it, you can let us know, and we will
challenge us. Because you know what? I'm ready for challenges because I love craziness. So, I mean, nothing gory though. Don't be disturbing. Don't be rude like
that. We'll watch it and we'll give a review.
Yeah.
But also, like, please no kid movies. It's got to be like a weird, like a B movie or something like that.
You mean like cartoons like that? Oh yeah, no. Those are bad.
Or anime.
Or Lifetime movies. Stop it. That's ridiculous. Don't even go there.
If you ask us to watch some Lifetime movies, I will go outside. And God knows, you've seen my other videos, there's plenty of people to rub up against outside. So if you want this shit to continue longer than May, June, whatever, if you ever want to see people again or get out, don't tell us to do that.
Nope.
No.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this review of this god-awful movie. This is Michelle Blanco.
Melissa Sear.
And this is
What the frick did we just watch?
Thanks.
Bye.